Welcome to Elite 6 Business Networking Think Tank, facilitated by your host Danny DeHeck, the place where decision makers come together to share their experience, knowledge and skills. I'm going to say welcome along to our Think Tank meeting. We are about to start. We're going to do a quick introduction around the room today because it'd be nice. So if you haven't been to Elite 6 Think Tank meeting before, we're a crazy bunch of self-employed people who like to talk with like-minded people about the woes and the joys of working for ourselves. And we come together on a Friday at 9:30 and we come up with a think tank meeting and we discuss a topic. So today's topic is actually communication. So let's get the ball rolling. Let's just do a quick introduction so everyone knows who they are. Let's go around the room or around the... Do you go around the room these days?
Why not?
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Let's start with Stephen. Tell us about your hairdryer business.
Good morning. Stephen Fitzgerald Architecture. Look, I design buildings, work with clients for hill sites, healthy housing, off the grid, something different, energy efficient. It's me.
That sounds exciting, mate. Who would like to go next?
All right, I'm Matt James.
Oh, there you go, Matt James. Boo. Go.
And boom. And I'm a business coach and consultant working in our practice in Rangiora with my wife, who's the accountant side of life. So, yeah.
Oh, that's good. And you thought you was going to say you own a hairdressing salon, but then I thought, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
Floor polishing.
Floor polishing. Well, now you've got the mic on. You tell us what you do, Paul.
I'm Paul. I run Canterbury Computers out in Rangiora, and we provide IT support for small businesses.
And you sell 160,000 different electronics online.
I'd like to, yes.
Yeah, so working on that. That's good. So David Clarkson, sir.
I'm David Clarkson from Dynamic Communication. We are public speaking and business presentation skills trainers, and we also do some soft business school training as well. We build more confident, more competent, more credible communicators.
Yeah, and you've trained me, and look at me now. Look at me now. Hey, pretty cool. Clinton, do you want to have a go?
Yep, my name's Clinton Selby. I've got a business called Ergo Style. We provide ergonomic furniture and workplace solutions. And I also run a co-working space, a shared co-working space in Ferrymead and Addington.
Yeah, you sold 300 chairs last week.
Oh, yeah, sold 300 chairs last week. That was nice.
Ever wonder who you're sitting on? Clinton. Chris, let's go there, and then we'll go Stefan and Gillian. There
we go.
I got it right. Chris.
I'm Chris Cameron. I run a company called Shizuoka Martial Arts, and we provide life skill and bully-proofing self-defense applications for youth and businesses.
You kick ass.
Absolutely, every day.
Cool. All right, you two.
This is Stefan Janine from The Art Wave. We help businesses of all sizes resolve pain points around their e-commerce and systems and integration.
Sorry about kissing you on the way through there, but I just noticed that somebody got kissed on camera then. So on the back of the head. Yeah, we'll go for Mark, and then we'll go Sean.
It's Sean.
Yeah, that was gross. That's all right. That's all right. I enjoyed it. Mark.
Right. Well, I think that was my wife. I'm not sure that part.
Happy customer.
Yeah, so Mark Scown, insurance advisor, broker for the last 4 years after many years as a school principal. But what I specialise in really is being able to work with individuals and give them long-term sustainability and affordability of those premiums that are going up by 3, 4, 5,000% once you get to your late 40s and beyond. Yep. That's what I do.
Cool. And Sean, have you got your mute off? You can see you there walking around the parks, especially around the neighbourhood.
Right, Sean from Quality Clean, focus on pest controls, killing bugs and rodents, can do water restorations and other stuff.
Nah, cool. That's all right. You should get together with Chris, man. Chris could kick it and then he'd kill it and then you could charge for it. I don't know if that made sense. And last but not least is Lachlan. Tell us what you do. You're a pilot.
You think so?
Could do.
You look kind of pilot-y, or like something like a Teletubby. Yes, I'm a recruiter. I recruit for the architectural, engineering and science spaces, mainly in New Zealand. Although at the moment I'm doing a lot of work in renewable energy offshore in Pacific Islands. Well, I say a lot, I mean none, because no one can fly anywhere. But if they could fly anywhere, I'd be really, really busy making a great income. As it is, I'm waiting for the planes to take off. Also, some great candidates in South Africa. Let's just say I'm a bit disappointed with myself. So what I'm doing in the meantime is I've been sort of practicing my video skills and a few bits and pieces, but I'm building a bit of a community in the space that I work in. So I have quite a decent database, but I like a lot of people, I haven't made the best use of it. So I'm just trying to make best use of that and tap into it, building some contractors and also just building a community in that area.
Ah, well done, thank you. And you guys had my heart racing before. It was 9:30, and I think we had 2 people in the room, and all of a sudden everyone turns up. And I thought, that's lucky, because now we've got a really good room. I'm loving it. So thank you very much for all turning up. It makes me realise that getting up at 7:30 this morning is worthwhile. I'll put the razor blades away now.
The time to go yet then?
Thanks for leaving.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, we're here and he's just here.
Danny's doing a statue imitation.
Oh, have I frozen up, have I?
Yeah.
No, you look like you've come right now.
Oh, right. That's cool. Oh, no, it's going to be blurry. I don't want blurry. I wonder that's
So much better.
Oh, no, I'm just going to get rid of a screen or two. Right, so
Start. You're sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'm working on that. What we're going to do is lick your lips and start getting ready to, what do you call it? Talk. So hopefully this comes right this time. Oh, it's not very good. Oh, anyway, so if you haven't been to Think Tank meeting before, what we do is we have a topic, which is communication today. And we're going to talk about people's experiences, problems with communication, and then come up with some solutions. And hopefully we come up with some takeaways. This week at our other meetings, we talked about, I asked the question, different ways to communicate effectively. And I did a bit of a search on the big Google web, and there was a few different ways that we can communicate: verbal, written, oral, face-to-face, non-verbal, physical, and as David Clarkson uses a lot, paralanguage and visual. Now, David, tell us what paralanguage is, because you say there's 2 ways of communicating. So how would you explain that?
Yeah, well, my standard way of explaining this is, or talking about it, is to ask people how many languages they think they have. And I start off by saying 1, and then 2, and then 3, and more than 4 sort of thing. And people put up their hands at various stages. But for all the people who put up their hands and say that they've only got 1 language, I in fact say that they've got 2, because they in fact have their native language and they have body language, and both are equally important when it comes to communicating with people.
Yeah, I thought you'd explain that well. Thanks for letting me throw you on. Brilliant. So communicating. So I had a lady that was complaining. We had a shop, and we basically thought, well, when COVID-19 was on, we would put a message out to our customers, give them some peace of mind. And we said, we'll give them a guarantee that if the product doesn't turn up in 60 days, that we would refund their money. So a lady received the products literally on day 61 and then demanded to get the money back and keep the products. And Helen was corresponding with her about 15 times, and we thought, we weren't going to give the money back. But I was amazed that people thought that. At the end of it, I took over the conversation as the manager and wrote her a very stern email. And then I decided to tell her a joke and tell her my joke about how I got pulled up the other day for going down a one-way street. And the policeman said to me, "Didn't you see the arrows?" And I said, "I didn't even see the Indians." And then I said, "And if you want to keep replying to us," because she wasn't going to give up. She was demanding, she wanted the $37 back. But eventually I said to her, "If you write back to me again, I'm going to give you another dad joke." So I just found a different way to communicate with her and turned it into humor, and it kind of softened up and she changed her whole angle and approach, and I won her over. And I just thought that was a funny way of communicating with people. Has anyone got any other experiences of turning something around where people have maybe miscommunicated, or you've sent out the wrong message and you need to turn it around?
Well, it'd be a shorter conversation if at the time I said I sent out the right message. But obviously in recruitment, I deal with a lot of people who, when you have to reject them for roles, and it's quite a challenge because some people take offence to that. When you have to turn people around because they get frustrated, they say, why can't I be considered for this role? And then you have to be very careful and respectful of them, because people are very delicate when you're judging them. You're sitting here on some sort of throne and you're judging them, and you could be very, very careful. You can't be condescending, and you can't be rude.
I like being condescending.
Yeah, you can be condescending. Yeah, but that's a really important part when people are choosing the careers and they have to earn money, and there's someone behind them saying with a pointy stick saying go for that job, and then I have to turn them down. So the thing is, I just have to open up the kimono and say, look, I've got 15 good candidates out of 200 for this role, and the 3 people ahead of you have got this, and this, and you're currently in South Africa. So, and I have to just go through it. And generally, people, when they come back, they're just fine. But you've got to be pretty careful on it.
So if we put that in the chat box and summarize what you just said, would you say people, you need to be a bit sensitive when communicating with some people?
But also deal with facts. My thing is, you deal with the facts and logic, and you say, look, this is from my position. My job is to find the best person, not just get you. And then there's the 5 people. I've got a job out in the islands at the moment. So I have to say, I use logic. Take away the emotions, I would say.
Right. Yep. No, well done. Thank you. Yep. Anyone else got any experience with communicating?
Every day.
Every day.
Well, I guess there's those, I think they call them courageous conversations, aren't they? When, similar to what Lachlan was saying, but maybe in a workplace where you have to pull people up on their performance, or even lead them to a dismissal, or maybe it's redundancy. And I think in those situations, it's having a real clear, concise message that's easily understood with clear boundaries and expectations is the best way. So don't fluff around, I guess is what I'm saying. Get to the point. And give people time to process the bad news, if it is bad news, and come back.
You're fine. I'm ringing you back in half an hour.
Yeah. We're all hard, Danny. I know that.
That's why I'm not in that job.
So those courageous conversations. The hard thing to do. It's very easy to praise people. It's very easy to give people a promotion, or to where everything's going soon. Sometimes you have to do the other side, and I've learned over the years, you just got to be direct and keep going. Even to the point when, unfortunately, I had a few situations where people have been crying on me, and I give them a moment to pause, but then I just keep going because you have to get the message out.
Wow. And is that like if you're laying somebody off or something like that, and they've lost their job and they're trying to absorb that information, that sort of style?
Yeah, because I think what they want is information. Especially in the redundancy thing, because there's a whole process around that, of course, the change proposal. So you have to be really clear. So normally, in that case, you do a whole lot of homework up front, and you give the proposal why things need to change, with some facts and figures if necessary, and that gives them a chance to think about it and come back. But yeah, I think it's important to get the message over in its entirety, and you can't spare their blushes. You can do things in a humane way and in a respectful way, but if it's not working, it's not working.
And when you're doing that sort of delivery of those sensitive stuff, I presume face-to-face is the best way to go, but if you had to deliver it over a phone call, is there a...
Well, I know in this world something that might now be necessary, but I would not normally ever do that.
Information, because we got that one.
It's really hard. So I had to get help for a client. I had to someone who was within the 90-day trial, and we had to let that person go, and I was the one who got the dubious task of actually giving the message, and that was hard. But I just had to go straight to the point, and yeah.
Cool. All right, other people's experiences.
Yeah, we've had a few experiences, especially when we're not directly interfacing with clients. We're going through partners or like the middleman. We just find it like very important to not only be clear and concise with your communication, but also back it up with like email and maybe get approval.
Yep.
Because in lots of like cases, they come back and it starts becoming a blame game, and when things go wrong, and then you can always back it up with like an email comms. And in most cases, when we have backed it up with email, we don't really get any challenges afterwards because it's all crystal clear. And then, yeah, I think verbal communication is good, but it's always good to back it up with like some kind of written confirmation as well.
First-hand example of that was this week when my mate got his $2,000 cabinets delivered from Auckland, and they were 600 by 600 with shelves in them that were 300 by 300 by 300 high. And if you do the math, it doesn't work out. But somewhere along the line, the guy said, my product's 300 high, and I want to have them stacked 3. And then he said, how big do you want the cabinet? So that's 600 by 600, $1,000 each. And he's trying to put his product, and it was all verbal. And I said, "What's the correspondence?" And he said, "Oh, you know." And then here I am. I dropped this cabinet off to somebody trying to smash the shelves out, and you know, and he's ticked off. But simply by putting that in an email or confirming the dimensions would have saved $2,000 worth of dumb cabinets.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah, bro.
That's the main reason. So we use SketchUp to do all of our furniture designs. So when someone asks for a custom or whatever it might be, I'll spend an hour drawing it. So there's an actual 3D picture dimension showing exactly what it is they're getting and what color it is.
That's brilliant.
Because when I say people don't read, interpretation is up to the individual. And we found in the early days, years and years ago, when you weren't drawing stuff, you'd have things turn up from the factory and you'd be like, that's not what I ordered.
Yeah.
You go back through you go back through your verbal communication and emails, and then you can see where the misinterpretations happened. It's like,
that was Steve, actually, so it was quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny enough, I think we went to that, I think I went in there with that shop, the shop fitter guy who bakes with the plastic PVC shelving. I think I've been in there with you at one stage. Well, maybe it was James. But, yeah. Alrighty. So, so there's a problem, obviously, without communicating properly, especially when it comes down to, you know, stock or meeting people's expectations. If we aren't clear of our communications, or it's hairy-fairy. Any other experiences there? Well, we're gonna what's the problems? Well, there's a problem straight away with not communicating properly. You get the wrong product.
Yeah.
You get the wrong product, the wrong service,
Time delays,
the wrong kind of quality.
Oh yeah, I'm just fixing spellings now.
You end up wasting time.
That's a good one. Wasting time. I'm going to put that down there. Wasting time. What's it? Who's that one?
You can end up losing customers.
Abusive customers or abusing customers?
Using.
Yeah.
And getting abusive customers, yes.
We're really not communicating well.
With our communication at the moment, we've employed a system called Remaze, and basically we're forcing people to go through our contact us page on our website, and then looking at all our email correspondence. And we're just going through all our correspondence and looking for the commonly asked questions and then coming up with automated answers. And I said to Helen yesterday that I thought it would be quite nice if we declare that we have got a self-help knowledge base, which is like when you go fill up your car with petrol these days, you can do it all on the app from your car and not even have to go in and pay for it. And I said that should be our goal, really, is to basically have a self-service help desk and have the whole lot automated and no customer interaction. I'm sure that's going to piss off a lot of people, but if we let them know that from the outset that any questions that they may have is answered in a knowledge base, and if they ask a question that's not in the knowledge base, come back in 3 hours' time and we'll edit. I don't know if you can run a business like that, but I thought that might be a way other than sitting here answering 100 emails a day. Miscommunication. So we got problems, misunderstanding if not clear. That is a problem. What else we got there? Thanks for the chat room stuff. That's good. Thank you. Hold up, we've got 2 here. We've got Mark's updated. Miscommunication ends well. You guys have seen this. Might be doubling up there, but it won't matter. Right, so what am I trying to say?
And one of the things that I think, Danny, is, and that's what I've put in the chat room, is that one of the key things about communicating is that we focus on our clients' needs rather than our own needs. If we make them the focus, then the communication channels are more easily worked.
Make them the focus. Put the customer first.
Yes.
It's all about me.
Their needs.
Say that again.
Oh, it's there.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
You've got it up here.
Just trying to re-raise my screen. Word of advice: don't get a massive screen like I've got. It gets a bit like a big bit of real estate to keep an eye on all the windows. Okay, but I do love my screen. Clinton's going to like the barbecue. And by the way, if you want to go anywhere today at 4 o'clock, I suggest you go to Genius Co-working in Ferrymead because they're having a barbecue at 4. Right, so where are we at, guys? I'm sorry I'm a bit vague. I'm being a bit naughty here, trying to multitask. Is this a good topic today? Did we pick a goodie?
Yep.
We did. Communications. Well, you guys are all wrong. And I need to communicate that better, don't I?
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, just interesting, this morning I was part of a conversation and person was on the receiving end of one of those conversations where he's being called on to jobs are disestablished and people are being called upon to reapply for their jobs, which can be a difficult situation.
Yep.
And he referred me to Simon Sinek's book called about the why concept. You know what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And he referred particularly to the why, and especially when we're in those sort of situations and we're faced with a dilemma, it's why do we want to do the things that we want to do? And if we've got that clear in our own minds, then when we're applying for new jobs or applying for the same jobs or whatever we're doing, it just means that we're coming from a place that makes or enables us to more clearly communicate what it is that we're looking for and what we can give in return.
So kind of identify the why and why we want to communicate properly.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's a good question for us. Why is it important to communicate? I mean, does it really matter?
We're social animals operating in a society, and that means that for us to operate effectively, we've got to be able to communicate effectively with one another. Because if we're not able to do that, what you're going to end up is you're going to end up with, in a global scale, with anarchy. But on a smaller scale, you're not going to be able to effectively run your businesses and promote them if you can't communicate the key concepts around what you supply and why you supply.
I was watching the press secretary for Donald Trump answer all the reporters' questions last night on TV before I went to bed, and that was not a good thing to go to sleep on. And I just thought, oh my God, they just have their communication's terrible, and all her answers were just going around in circles. And I just thought, there's got to be a better way of communicating with people. But then, obviously, some people don't like people with our business at the moment. People don't like what we're saying and telling us that we haven't answered their question, but we have answered their question, but they don't like the answer of it. So then they assume that we haven't given them what they want. So we go, we have actually said, no, you're not getting a refund because, but you haven't answered my question. And I go, well, we have, you're not getting it. But you should. So it's like, it doesn't matter what I say, even if I communicate it in pidgin language, it's still not getting through. They're not absorbing what I'm saying. I love customer service. It's the
I think know your customers.
Yeah. My customers aren't repeat customers.
But that's the whole point of business, isn't it? To make your customers repeat customers.
Well, I don't know about that. I get about having good, like my mate that sells the watches, he builds a customer relationship and he bends over backwards and he does amazing. He's got that type of business, overnight delivery and all that. It's going really well. Somebody came in the shop the other day while I was there and she was demanding that the watch that her child broke when he was playing rugby should be fixed free of charge from Garmin. And she was telling him, if they don't do this, I'm going to do that. And he doesn't even work for Garmin. He's just, and I was just watching the whole, even though you can be brilliant, you still get customers whose expectations are just off the wall. Yeah. And ironically, he managed to get this lady's watch 100% replaced. And she went, thank you. And it's like, it's just amazing. But anyway, back to life.
Wow.
Can I just say one thing I find with communication, it's between two people or two parties, but reflection is a really good thing to do, just to improve your listening skills. Someone delivers and you receive, but you may not receive it the way it was intended to be delivered. So reflecting on what you think you heard back to the person that delivered, I find is quite a good means of communication.
I've done that before. Quote their own email or quote their own words, and you know.
But that's a really good point now, Stephen, because just sometimes people would play it back to themselves and to clarify, because I did a classic a while ago. I had some career. Someone said, "Can you help this person with a career?" So this guy said, "Look, I haven't got not good enough marks to do a programming job, so I'm looking at my options." And I'm thinking, "Oh, he wants to do stuff apart from programming." Yeah, but he didn't. So I talked at him for 45 minutes. I didn't turn around and say, "But how does that help him getting a programming job?" "Ah, you want a programming job? I should have clarified before to find what actually do you want." "Oh, I want a programming job. I just don't have good enough marks." "Ah, right. You know, clarifying. Could say 45 minutes, couldn't I?
Yeah. Hey, Mark, you're a bit quiet today. Come on, what are you thinking? Your words of wisdom.
I'm practicing
I want the arms out here and I want the gesture.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm practicing non-verbal communication at the moment. And I'm thinking and reflecting.
Right, and that reflection's good. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah.
We may have to give you a topic. Like,
I've had a few things.
The 50 staff people there, I think you've said before, and you implemented something new, you couldn't just go in there and bowl out 50, tell 50 people, you'd win a few people over first and then blend them into the group around the room and then announce the announcement. You found that a good way of communicating?
That was around, communicating change we were talking about then, weren't we?
Yeah.
I think, building on Stephen's point, though, I think that's clarification is really important. So that might be during a conversation when you say, okay, so what I think you're asking me is, and you play it back to them. But also I think the other part is, if it's especially in a conversation which has some meaning, some potential outcome, is just a summary email afterward which said, oh, great chat, blah, blah, this is what we agreed today. And I never leave anything which is vaguely important, has implications, financial, reputation or anything, always back it up in an email. And I've used that many, many times, because otherwise you get this he said, she said debates down the track. So clarifying is important, I think. Very important.
Is that listening and playback what they said?
Yeah.
Am I spelling pretty good on that? Yeah. That's a bit of a miracle. All right, guys. Anyone win a lotto on the weekend?
No.
Not yet.
I just didn't check.
$59. After lockdown, we decided we'd never buy another lotto ticket again. When we're in lockdown, we stopped buying lotto tickets because every now and again we do. And then on Saturday, when we're out of town, Helen says, I want to buy a lotto ticket. I said, no. We said we wouldn't buy any more. It's a waste of money. And she bought one and she won. $59. I bought one and I won one line.
There must have been 5 numbers.
But Dan, did she win $59 or did she spend $30 to get $59 and therefore only got the balance?
I buy a $28 ticket and she buys a $16 ticket. I won one line, she won $59. I think big. But anyway, I'm trying to stop by that. We was going to stop drinking, but that didn't work. So now we're gambling and drinking again.
As well.
We're still vegans. All right, thank you for those words.
It's only Friday.
Yeah. All right. So is that a Matt James, or is that a solution?
Yeah.
Yes, there's two there actually. I was just documenting key discussion points.
No, they're going to bring you back in on Monday.
Communications, do your homework, use facts and examples.
So I can do it as 1 point or 2, do you reckon?
2. You take the first one up to document key discussion points.
See, I'm lagged. You wouldn't think that, would you?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It's really good.
Yeah.
Right. We've talked about gambling, alcoholism, and I'm deciding whether to start eating cows again. Being a vegan, no, we're not. Yeah.
Another thing about communication is the different mediums that you communicate in. People don't necessarily understand or have a clear recollection on the medium that you prefer to present in. For example, being dyslexic, if you present something in words as opposed to hearing it verbally, you receive it or don't receive it in the same way it's been delivered. And if I have to get a neighbour's consent for a design that I do, legally I have to provide it in words as well as pictorial. And I had a meeting the other day where my client, the husband of the client, he said that his wife's not very good in understanding the spatial design. So I spent most of the meeting trying to verbally clarify to her. And at the end of the meeting, I just asked her, can you just reflect and tell me, how did the meeting go for you? And she said, everything was fine, except when you try and verbally explain it, I get totally lost. And I had spent the whole meeting trying to verbally explain the designs because I thought that was her comprehension. And she said, I'm happy I can understand the drawings, but I just don't understand the verbal delivery of the explanation. So it's understanding how that particular person you're communicating with best receives the information that's delivered to them.
I think, dyslexia is a really funny thing, actually, because I honestly continuously trying to find the best way to communicate with somebody, but I often get judged on my email correspondence, and I think I'm not very good at it. But I wrote I'll write things in a blog form, and like Helen will read it back and say, you're a really good writer. But then I I lose faith in my words sometimes, but often I'm trying to express myself and for people to understand me. But if I take an email that I've written and then I have a phone call with somebody, normally I find that easy articulating the way I want to get that message across, because you might say one phrase, then you wait for a reaction. They go, oh my God. And you can hear the tone of their voice. Quiet. And then you can make a informed reply to that reaction because you can hear it in there, but you get no sensitivity with an email correspondence.
Yeah, and I think it's also there's a generational thing too. So my sons are in their early 20s, but them and their peers, it's mainly through text or Snapchat and things like that, they communicate. And there's so much that gets miscommunicated in those environments because they don't get the intonation or they don't hear the emotion of people. And I'm always telling them to get on the phone and talk to the friend. If there's a dispute with their friends or something, I'm always saying just speak to the person, because you're just so it's the art of communication, effective communication, I think is well, I hope it's not a dying art, but it's a concerning thing that people don't use it as well as they could do these days.
But if you, following up on that, if you put adolescent children together at the moment, you see how they communicate through mail, text, when they're not face to face, and they're nearly having the conversation can be nearly explicitly sexual, but you put them together in the same room and they can't say boo to each other. So, the means of communication, it's a very interesting topic that you say, that there is a different generational means of communicating now, which is totally alien to how we were brought up and how we communicated ourselves, and cross generations is becoming more and more interesting as it's like corresponding with your children from a younger generation to how we communicated it. We have to go through an educational process to understand how to improve our means of communication.
Yeah, Stephen, I just wonder how far it goes, though. I think whilst they're in, especially in the school environments and what have you, that works pretty well. But once they get out in inverted commas in the real world, things change a little bit. And one of the things that I find is that I'm getting consistently people from their mid to late 20s on coming on the communication courses, trying to learn how to do it in a verbal sense, how to have conversations with other people, because they have missed out on those skills. And because in actual fact, they've got to be able to operate in a face-to-face situation with people.
IRL, in real life.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good concept in itself, is how to engage communication.
Mm.
You know, like I used to, when I was single years ago, I used to use pickup lines, and I think, I want to go meet those girls. How do I do it? And my best one was walking up to them and saying, would you like me to buy you a drink, or do you just want the money? They used to laugh or get really insulted, and I thought, well, obviously not the person for me. But a friend of mine gave me some advice once, and he just walks up and says, hi, I'm Danny, and shakes their hand.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, that's really simple. But sometimes that first engagement when you meet somebody is, you know, you've got to open the communication, you know, start the dialogue, or how do we groom somebody for a conversation?
But, you know, if we all turned off our screens so we couldn't see each other, would we have the same conversation?
No.
Unlikely.
No.
So we're the same people, the same generation, the same topic, but we're only seeing each other. So, you know, there are different things that trigger communication.
Yeah, I think the difference is we have the wisdom to know that.
Mm.
No, I think the difference is we kid ourselves. We've got the wisdom, man.
Yeah.
We were talking before about the young people, and I've got 2 daughters in their 20s, and the conclusion I've come to is most people have a social media alter ego. And I still remember one of my daughters saying, I've got this friend, she's crazy, she's into this cosplay thing, dresser, she's absolutely crazy. My goodness, I've met crazier stones than her when she actually came along in real life, quiet as a mouse, you know, and you know, she would have been a quiet one in the auditors convention, I tell you. And the fact is, apparently she was just crazy. Oh no, she's all crazy online. And what David says is absolutely right, is then they have to learn how to communicate in real life. But let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of things that the younger people have. They're a lot more educated than we were about all of these things. They're a lot more aware of these things. It's just getting up and doing it is the challenge. In many cases, we were terribly ignorant at school ourselves. We didn't learn much at all about real life. We learned what was in our village or our town, so we didn't know much about the world. So there's wisdom on both sides.
Yeah.
I think
it's interesting. It's interesting, you know, going on from that, Chris. That I think one of the key things is to be able to have the confidence to be prepared to say what we have in our hearts and in our minds, the knowledge and the skills and what have you that we have. And a lot of people just don't have that confidence to do that, and that inhibits communication hugely. Whereas if people, don't, you know, whether it means go to a course and learn how to do it, or whether you just say to yourself, people want to hear what I've got to say, and then say it. And you'll pretty find out if people don't want to hear what you've got to say.
How do you build confidence?
More often than not, Chris, it's by actually doing it and by getting feedback after you've done it.
Yeah.
I believe that the whole purpose of poetry and songs is so it gives us a medium whereby we can say what's in our hearts that we could never say in normal conversation.
Yeah.
It has different permissions. I know it's a bit deep, but when you think of what people would say in a poem and what's written in songs, is often what we'd be too scared to say if we were standing in front of someone.
Are you going to start singing for us?
Thankfully not.
Feedback. So get confidence by doing and getting feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think doing is a really important word. I mean, sitting on your laurels and not being proactive. I mean, if you do something and perhaps it doesn't go right and you make a mistake, it's owning up to it and knowing how to fix your mistakes, or letting other people fix their mistakes. So if somebody said something wrong, letting them undo it, unravel it. Because I know when people read my emails, and I've read, with dyslexia, sometimes you miss out the small words. So if you said I cannot do something and you forget to put the word not in front of it, it's very hard going back to that client and saying, oh, actually, I'm dyslexic and I forgot to put the word not in front of that correspondence. Can we please take that out again? They said, no, you said. And I go, oh, okay. But now I'm telling you that I made a mistake, but you're not accepting that. You know, so sometimes you FUBAR it up, which I don't want to explain what FUBAR means if you don't know.
I think the same thing.
A well-known politician.
Yeah.
He left the knot out. So he is.
That's good. Admit when you are wrong or have made mistakes. Yep. So that is a solution. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because if you fluff around and just can't say the word sorry or I've made, then that's a relationship thing as well. You just got to say, yeah, I stuffed up.
Yeah, we're not only human.
Being vulnerable. If you show your vulnerability to somebody, then that opens communication.
Yeah. People who prey on that, or, you know, it's like the lady who wants her $37 gift back. You know, it's like, you're not getting it. I'm sorry.
And
hey, perhaps I should have, you know, perhaps we should have just given the money back and said, hey, but then I thought, no, that's not right. Be transparent. Solution. Be transparent. How does that work? Who said that?
Yeah.
What does that mean, be transparent?
Yeah, be transparent means,
Put your cards on the
in
table.
one sense, don't be scared, don't be afraid, be open, honest, and similar to the previous points here.
Yeah.
So if you see there's a problem with your communication, just like maybe try different angles to.
One of my favourite audio books, I've listened to it 4 times, is actually called Flip It by Michael not Hempsey, somewhere else. And basically that's what they say. If you're taking 48 hours to get back to somebody with an urgent email, rather than making an excuse, own up to it and say, look, I've just been overwhelmed. I'll get that back to you in an hour. Come up with some practical advice around it so that you can see that you're proactive. You know, own up to it. I think it's great.
It's Josh Rogan, Danny, isn't it?
I'm not sure, actually. I'll tell you in a second. It's a brilliant book, actually. I'm always on the hunt for books, actually, if you ever do have any. But it's called Flip It. Flip It. Yeah, and it's by a author that I can't see at the moment. Oh, Michael Heppell. I'll put it.
Oh, Heppell. Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Got that wrong. Oh, I know. I used it. Josh Rogan used it on one of his courses. That's right.
Oh, did he? Oh, right. Yeah, no, I find it really good. I'll put it in the notes here. But I've actually listened to that book quite a few times because it is actually about ownership. And it's called How... oh, it's gone again. How can it go when I just had it up? Anyway, where are we at, guys?
One of the things that I think helps our communication is where we can, whenever it's appropriate, if we're speaking with other people face to face or even on this medium, if we can say it with a smile, people accept what we're saying a hell of a lot more easily than if we've got this serious, oh, you know, it's world-shattering sort of comment look on our face. You know, when you can, say it with a smile. Why not?
Yeah.
A smile goes a long way.
Right. That's right.
I remember one of these earlier meetings that we had I mentioned another lawyer, and there's a lawyer in the room. And I could see him when I was mentioning this other lawyer. He obviously doesn't like other lawyers. And you could see him going like this in the window going, oh, oh. And I thought, everyone's watching you, mate. Your body mannerism. Obviously, you don't like other lawyers. But yeah, that was quite funny. Well, it wasn't funny at the time. But anyway.
The whole concept of communication with earthquakes and with COVID, where we've actually had to operate from home or secondary buildings or half broken buildings, Lachlan, it was interesting when we started these Zoom meetings that you were concerned what was in the background. So your persona of how your clients view you, if it's going to be a recording, we start getting concerned about our look, our presentation, people's perception of how we operate and what we do as in our profession, on how we look, what we wear, what's our car like, what's our house like. You know, there's the barriers have been broken down and tested as we've gone through COVID and operating from home, and you know, I've got a door behind me, and you know, all that sort of thing. You know, people come to me for design, for not how I look. It's for the creation that I can give them, but all that perception or pre-perception of somebody is all part of the communication process.
Isn't it interesting how all the Zoom backgrounds have disappeared now?
Yeah, why is that? I can get the green screen. It's in the mail. I'm buying it from my own shop. It's going to take 6 weeks. But yeah, I'm going to be. Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing though, because I'm thinking that too. Actually, that's a really good observation.
But you know, Paul's sitting there. I always thought you're in your shop, Paul, until you walked through that wall the other day.
But the image behind me is not pretty, so I changed it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good stuff, guys. All right, so where we're going, we've got 10 minutes yet, so we're thinking about some takeaways we got from today's discussion on communication. If you want to ping a few of those out, think about something we can get our teeth into next week is another good idea. I love communication. I think it's really cool. I know a guy that's got a company called Dynamic Communications. He's pretty cool.
I think there's a little communicator there. Hey.
What was that again?
There's the little communicator in there in Auckland.
Little communicator. Oh, there is too. How do children communicate with their parents?
Don't.
Bad face?
Tweet TikTok.
Smiley face.
It's funny, I was at a restaurant the other day and there were these youngsters sitting next door to us and they were all talking to each other by their mobile phones.
Yeah.
And it was just so amazing to watch this, and not one word to each other. When the food came, they'd put them down and started eating, then back into their mobile phones. It was a specific culture, but even then, it just shows you how things have changed. But we have strict policies here that we try and keep it like face to face. I think that's important to balance communication channels.
You still need a blend of it, don't you? You can't just take it all to one medium. I mean, I did watch people's life drain out of their faces after 2 months of Zoom, and it is quite. It's funny. I've met some people I hadn't seen for 3 months, and then all of a sudden you bump into them, and you forget, I haven't seen you for 3 months. You know, but then something's different, and it's like, oh, we've got to go through the handshake and how you doing, mate? Because they haven't seen you for 3 months in person, and you forget that pretty quick. But something's missing. It's like a chemical that's not in your diet that you don't realise. It's like us being vegans. Apparently, when I first started being a vegan, I had to make sure that I get vitamin B12. B12. If I didn't have B12, I'd go loopy. And I'll go, oh, I must take B12. So I rushed out.
Take some more, Danny.
Yeah.
B12 every day, and was putting it under her tongue. And then I got some pills, which are in my glove box. Haven't touched them for 2 months. I'm not loopy.
No.
But you have some deficiency if you don't do it well, isn't it? Yeah. I think Stefan's comment about how you follow up things with an email is really important. As I've said in previous think tank meetings, I used to talk about what I'm going to do to market somebody's website and the structure and the format, and then they'd ask me to put it all in writing. And a guy can't put that in writing. It's too long. Just have to wing it, and trust me. But I still had to put the price that I was going to charge them and the hours I was going to spend on it. And at the end of it, I had to sort of summarize what they would get if they employed me to do something for them, because that's the important part. But I can't, the philosophy around, you know, I can't document my whole life in paper and words, especially being dyslexic.
You could attach a video recording of what you just said.
Yeah, here's a 50 gigabyte file. Like after this meeting, it takes about 45 minutes for this meeting to be compressed in a way where I can extract the video, the sound out of it for the podcast. Yeah. So then to upload that to a Dropbox.
But, you know, what you've just said, Danny, is very similar to people who say you've been in a meeting and you're taking the minutes and deciding what's important to go in the minutes and what's just sort of hearsay and stuff that's said, if you like, on the side or on the periphery. And I think very often that's sitting down and actually saying to yourself, well, hey, this is the important stuff. That's what's got to go in the memo. It's the same as if you're putting a bunch of minutes together, you know, as we do it.
I always play tennis with people who suggest that I write it down. I say, oh, well, feel free to take notes. And I'll sign it afterwards.
It's interesting because we're all, you know, the way the trend is going with clients who aren't local is to use Zoom and other communication mediums. But I've always found it interesting that when I used to deal a lot with international suppliers or customers, you would do that, or you'd have conference calls as it was in the day before Zoom sort of thing. But when you occasionally would actually go and physically visit them, or they would come and visit you, you'd make so much progress in the amount of hours than you did over all the communications, and it was amazing. You know, you just suddenly get to the same point again. You could have drifted apart on understanding, and sometimes you'd have a social aspect. You know, they take you out or you take them out. And it was such a positive thing. And I think that's what's forgotten about the assumption that we can do everything on Zoom and the like going forward. Yes, it absolutely has its place. But there's something to be said about the face-to-face, real-time stuff too.
I haven't actually told you what I actually used to do with people who had asked me to write it down. I've originally, at the very end, I come up with what I call a letter of understanding. And it was an understanding of the services I provide. And it was a general letter. And I used to always get my clients to sign it so they understood the services I provide. And that was sort of a way of bypassing me writing word for word what I was proposed to do. But then I wanted them to, because the problem I used to have with my website development is I used to be part of a collective of websites that all interlinked. And there was no real ownership of any of that. It was like, so people wanted to have their ownership of their own website. So if they ever left me, they would want to take their page out of the yellow pages, so to speak, and then go on and carry on using that advertising. And I'd say, well, you're actually advertising in the yellow pages. And when you leave me, you can't take your advertising with me. I'll repurpose that to somebody else. And it used to always blow their brain. So at the end of the day, I just wrote up a letter of understanding and got them to read it and sign it and return it back to me so they didn't have any misunderstandings later on. And that was kind of like a saving grace for me, really, if that makes sense.
I also have found an experience over the years is, yes, having means of communication being very successful, but documenting that means of communication helps for future liability and litigation. Yeah. And I was lucky that I used to sit down as soon as I finished all my meetings and spend 15 minutes to 20 minutes writing my own file notes on what was discussed at that meeting. And with all the leaky house stuff that come out, you got requested to come in for litigation meetings, and if I hadn't recorded all those file notes, they are perceived to override what people say verbally, recollection of what happened in those meetings, and that actually protected me a hell of a lot in future scenarios. And, you know, yes, we may have a really good means of communication, we may get together, we may do it verbally, but we still need to document it and summarize it. And I don't know
documentation
Zoom meeting, but if this is a recorded Zoom meeting, you could go back to that recorded meeting as proof of what was said in the meeting, whether you documented it or not. And I guess a recording of a Zoom meeting, everyone's there with intent to know that they were recorded, therefore it can be used in evidence. But there is that side of communication as well for future referencing back to.
Yeah, that's cool. Funny enough, I did go to small claims court with a lady once who decided to reverse her credit card after I did 1.5 websites for her. And my saving grace was the fact that every conversation on the phone I had, I actually documented the time and the agreement. And it went so good in my favour that when I was leaving the mediator's room, I turned, and she was flabbergasted that she didn't get her money back. And the mediator guy, I turned around and said to him, "Are we still on for squash on Saturday?" And I still remember the look on her face, because she thought it went so much in my favour. It was just like me and the mediator guy were friends. But my saving grace was the fact that I had documentation. I hadn't even done the job, I'd done a lot of research and nothing to prove that I'd done this research that she had agreed for me to do. And it was just amazing. But the saving grace obviously is I had documentation, even if it was a verbal phone call. I said at 2 o'clock on Thursday, we discussed this, we did this. And then on Tuesday, we did this and that. And it was just something simple. But there's one thing that's really good these days, obviously, is we have correspondence with an email. Even if we flick an email to summarize at the end of a conversation, there's that sort of paper trail. All right, guys, next week's conversation and any more takeaways in the chat room would be good. What can I discuss next week that will make you guys all come back at 9:30? How's our mental wellness? We could change tack for a wee bit, because a lot of people at the moment are saying to me, well, I'm carrying on as normal and I don't, the talk of recession and all that sort of stuff, but at the moment I'm still doing okay. And I'm trying to think, are we waiting for something to happen or should we just carry on? And I like to just carry on and work with what we got scenario. But there's a lot of that negative cloud over us, which I'll be honest, we're all waiting for some sort of cloud to smother us and start choking us, but it hasn't happened. So is that something we need to discuss, or is it mental wellness?
Mental resilience?
Yeah.
Mental
well-being in business.
Yeah, I like that. I think the psychological effects, we're like soldiers, I reckon, because we aren't relying on sculler-ups or like that plant that just shut down. That's massive. I thought it takes a third of New Zealand's electricity. The element. But imagine the impact that will have on the community. That's 10% of New Zealand's power, or 13% of New Zealand's power goes out through the bottom end of the South Island.
Is that shut now, is it?
Hey?
Is that shut? I missed that. Is that now?
Yeah, they threw 30 million or 30 billion, I don't know, into it to help survive it, and they're not doing it
50
again.
million.
Yeah. TY smelter.
At one point.
They're asking to pay 4 cents a kilowatt hour of electricity.
Who?
Rio Tinto.
So when was that closure announced? I heard
Yesterday.
Yesterday, I missed that.
10,000 out of jobs.
How many, sorry?
10,000.
Wow.
1,000 jobs and
That means all that power bills are going to go up.
Well, they reckon it's going to go cheaper. I don't understand how that works.
No, it won't.
No, it
They've
won't.
lost a bunch of revenue.
And that community is so reliant on TY.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I missed that.
Yeah, so I think that's a massive, I think, because I think our mindset is very important. So, I mean, I'm mental wellness and business. I mean, I think we've got to sort of, I think it's a big thing. I like to discuss it. If you guys are keen, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else did you get from coming to the meeting today? Give me a couple more takeaways, or I'll ban you. Oh, sorry, my communication skills aren't very good.
We're the repeat customers that you do want, Danny.
All right. What's the customer again? You're the only guys that get my customer support. If you bought from my shop, it'd be different. You know that, don't you? Yeah. All right, come on, that's good. All right, what are we doing here? So it is 10:31 and other people have their life. We've got to get a warrant of fitness for Helen's old car today. That's really exciting. She bought a new car, which is quite exciting. I have to park my car on the road so we can take her car out of the garage, but it never comes out. So it's exciting. All right, guys, I'll finish the meeting. If you are listening to our think tank meeting, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, we're online at elite6.co.nz and we can be listened to on our podcast. Podcast.elite6.co.nz if you want to listen to other shows. Thank you very much, and we'll turn this off so I can swear. How do I do that? Turn the sound off. Must get that right. Stop recording. All right, see you next week.